Hello, everybody, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV podcast episode 599. I don't have Terry Miller with me here. He decided he's not coming back until 600. That's it. He's flying back into the country tomorrow, is what I gathered from him, and he'll be back from China, Taiwan, Japan, all the Asian spots, and we'll catch up with him next week. But this week, we have a special guest on tonight, someone who's been doing very, very well to start the season, similar to our guest last week, Joel Freeman, maybe somebody that slipped under the radar to start the season. So without any further ado, we're going to bring on Lisa Fajkus. Hi, Lisa.
Hey. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, no. We got you from the car. Is that what we got tonight?
Oh, yeah. Traveling on the way to North Carolina. So stopped and, a little pit stop.
Not too bad. I mean, you have 2 weeks to get there. Where are you looking to make it by the end of the tonight?
Oh, no, I'm pretty much done driving for the night. Once it gets dark, pretty much done. But we're still like a couple hours away. So.
Okay. Well, that's not too bad at all. So we can get right into it here. You have had a very strong start to the early season. You took, was it fourth or fifth place at Supreme Flight, and followed fourth place, perfect, and followed it up with second place here at the Big Easy. It's a new tournament, so I have to like get that in my head and be able to run it off the tongue real easy. So,
yeah,
talk a little bit to the fact of how you are playing and why you're playing so well, you think, this year, to start the year at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think it started in the off season really with my preparation and just taking a different mental approach to the season. And just really believing in myself and finding that was kind of some of the missing ingredient in my game, and just kind of having that heavier mental strength to rely on. And then I did a lot of training as well in the off season. I feel like that kind of prepped me for a good start.
I mean, I guess we'll get into that. What kind of training did you do? Is it more disc golf training? Is it more physical, hit the gym kind of training, somehow doing mental training? What is it in the off season that you really looked at and thought, I really need to get this together if I want to have a solid season?
Yeah, I actually didn't touch a disc almost all off season. So it was basically physical exercise on the daily, just to get that consistency going. And yeah, focus on getting stronger in a disc golf sense.
Okay. It seems to have worked. Like you said, fourth place, not only the fourth place at the Supreme Flight and the second place here, you started out the season with what, 2 wins? The Tallahassee and which other one was it?
The Reckoning on the River, which is in Bainbridge, Georgia, with the week before Tallahassee.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, those are 2 great events. We had the TD on a couple weeks ago to talk about those events, Griff, and it's just, at least for the Bainbridge event, great payout too. Is that right?
Oh yeah, they added, I believe, 15K at Bainbridge. Jeez. I mean, the city gets really behind that one. Visit Bainbridge, similar to the Jefferson Parish. I mean, they want to put on a good show, and they put in some added money, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
as well as Griff doing a great job.
Of course. So, I mean, we can look at that. I mean, at this point in your season last year, you had about $1,000 under your belt. This year, you're at like 7,800. How does that set you up for already maybe a positive spin on the season, knowing, because we know that, unless you're sitting there with one of the big contracts, or, you have yourself a really great Tour Series disc, sometimes getting to event is half the battle. So how does that feel for you, knowing that you're off to a great start, and B, the finances aren't nearly as tight right now as they were last year?
Right. Yeah, my for me, I'm just like focused on making it last and keeping it rolling week after week. So that's really important to me. But I mean, it helps. For me, just it's kind of night and day last year for like how I feel like I'm playing more freely, and that's just giving me better finishes on tour and really like just believing in myself as well. Paired with an open bag is really a good place for me right now.
Do you feel like this is a trend that you can keep going with? The Queen City's coming up in a few weeks, and we're going to see a lot of the Europeans finally show up. But the way you've been playing, I think you're going to be competing with them, neck and neck. So, do you feel like your preparation and the start of the season is maintainable through the next couple events, or are these two events particularly more favorable to you? You are a great putter, and as we saw at least for the MPO at the Big Easy, it's a putting course. Do you feel like it's the same way for FPO, or is the course designed a little bit differently for you?
Um, I don't know how conducive like my game really felt for these two first events. Um, like I wouldn't pick them to be like these are the ones that fit my game the best compared to like a shorter wooded track. I would say like almost like the ones coming up. So I'm really looking forward to those. But putting was kind of like a longer style at the Big Easy where you had like circle two looks. And I was not knocking those down. At least day one, I think I was 1 out of 9 or something like that. So that is something I actually focused on, went back and practiced, and really noticed that was something I can work on and gain a little confidence in. But my C1 putting has been pretty solid, actually. So when I did get to C1, I felt good. But yeah, a lot of long looks at the Big Easy. Supreme Flight, my putting was clicking there too as well, so that was great. But beyond that, I think I'm just hitting a lot of fairways as well. So my throwing is feeling like it's catching up and finding improvements there.
How does that differ from last year and how you felt? Because last year, your results, you tended to finish, I mean, you ended the season pretty well, actually, but earlier in the season, we're looking anywhere from 10th to 20th, maybe even into the 30th in some events in FPO, which, as we all know, you not necessarily the division that are best suited for as far as the age bracket, as we know from Own and yourself, Sarah Hokum, Holly Finley, all play FPO. But going into this year, people weren't talking about Lisa Fajkus as one of the competitors. We weren't talking about you in the top 5 or the top 10. There's always the young guns, the Holland Hanleys, Evelina Salonen. So how does this compare to last year? How were you feeling last year that's different than this year?
Um, one of the main things is having more tools at my side. I have a bunch of discs that sorry, let's redo that. But yeah, I have a lot more discs and tools in my tool bag that I can reach into. I don't feel like I'm trying to force anything. I feel like I'm doing more dissecting and kind of letting the disc match my game, if that makes sense, and just having a broad range to pick from. So I'm really enjoying. I feel like throwing some of the best discs out on the market, and it's fun too. And that kind of brings a level of joy just to having a you know good old time playing disc golf.
So how does your bag differ this year than it did last year? Like, what are you leaning on?
So
What are you leaning on now that you found that you've liked? Because you said you didn't really touch a disc in the off season. So are you still kind of learning, or how does that work?
So the last 3 years specifically have been a little different. So last year I was with Millennium, but the season before last year I was open bag. So I kind of have that experience from 2 seasons ago having open bag. Um, So back to last season, I was with Millennium, which was Innova and Millennium in the bag only, which was great. But coming from open bag to that, it was a little bit of a hard transition because I was missing a lot of my favorite discs again. But I made it work, and did the best I could with that. But I felt like I was missing a lot of tools as far as flippy, out of the gate kind of weapons that I really like to do are used in the woods, especially. So yeah, this year I have like a magnitude of plethora of discs that I can pick from, and I'm really enjoying that. And I think I'm using that to my benefit.
Anything specific that you're throwing right now that you've just you didn't realize that you missed so much? Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the fairway slots have been something I can lean on that I didn't have last year. So like those 6, 7 speeds. I'm really enjoying my rhythm
Mm.
and my sodas. Those have been great. I believe the soda might be a 9 speed, but just that kind of fairway flippy mix and just having like yeah, more drivers and even mids to pick from. But I haven't been throwing mids on tour. You don't really need to, but having zones in the bag is pretty huge.
Do you feel like you don't? How are you going to be throwing mids at this upcoming event with the Queen City? It's going to be a little bit of a shorter course. We're not talking like way shorter, but a little more wooded. It obviously sets up different for MPO than FPO. We see the MPO pull out a lot more mids at a course like this, but the FPO setup, are you pulling out a lot of mids unless you're in danger, or is it all kind of fairways and mostly fairways and drivers?
I want to say, like, I hope so, because I really love throwing my Fox and my Zone SS and on and on. Good, the Hex and a lot of great mids out there. But yeah, for approaches, potentially, I can see that being a thing out there. Yep.
Yeah, I haven't thrown the Hex, but I've heard so many people talk about how they love it. Well, how does it fly? How
It's
does it fly
amazing.
for you?
It's like a little bit more stable Buzz SS, so it
Okay.
just buttery straight out of the hand with some hyzer finish. It's just magical.
I'm gonna have to get a hold of one because you're not the first person I've heard talk about the Hex. Even here locally, I've got a couple friends that they've been talking about how it's made a slot in their bag and they're leaning on it more and more. So that's really good.
Definitely.
We talked about last year and the end of the year. You started to perform. You had a couple good finishes at the end of the year. Was it anything different from the beginning of the year? Did the courses just suit you better? Where was your game at the end of the year? Because you finished, oh gosh, I had it up here, fifth at, I think, was it fifth at GMC? Or was that 2 years ago? I'd have to take a look, but
No, I can't recall right off the bat. But that does sound correct actually. Yeah, I was finding a groove late in the season. I did have a good finish at GMC. I remember now. Yeah, I got into a groove. I think that has to deal with like being seasoned throughout the season and getting used to my new discs that I was throwing a new bag with Millennium. And I was not familiar with Millennium just so much before that, but I really came fond of my Falcon and my Orion LS, my Solstice, and many weapons that they provide, as well as some of my Innova discs. But it took me a while to get there, and I also really just enjoy GMC. I do think that is a conducive course for my game as far as that plays. So kind of that combination there.
and so we'll come back to this year and the tour. It's a long tour. Is your plan to play most of the DGBT events? Are you going over to Europe? Are you doing the West Coast swing? When are you going to jump off the tour and maybe dip into FP40?
Okay, so I'm not gonna go to Europe this year, but I'm pretty much playing all the DGPT events, and I really am gonna try my best if I can logistically make it to Masters Worlds. It
Okay.
actually lines up with MVP Open, which is a playoff event on the DGPT. So depending on my points, I'm kind of making a judgment call on how I'm doing in the season and things like that, and maybe, so
Mhm.
my hope is to make it to Masters Worlds. I can't make it to Selinsky, unfortunately, because it's the same weekend as the Open at Austin as well. So that doesn't fit in the schedule, unfortunately. So
Yeah, it's a lot tougher for the FP40 this year to hit them all. I think I've heard Owen mention it, and Sarah Hokum was talking about it as well at one point about how trying to get to some of these events is a little bit tougher this year to double up like we've seen in the past. Uh, where do where do you see yourself this year as far as physically, mentally? How has this early good play really changed your mindset going into the rest of the season?
I mean, it brings confidence to have two top five finishes back to back on the DGPT. And even before that, having those two wins back to back was like almost surreal. But really cool moment. To have those kind of just, it brings confidence going into the rest of the season. But beyond that, it's just kind of like one event at a time.
Do you feel like you surprised people this year? I mean, we always talk about off season. I asked this about Joel Freeman last week. We always talk about the off season and who's going to be playing well and who to look out for. And like I said, your name wasn't really brought up because of the season you had last year. Yet you come out and you are one of the most, and I tend to look at things from a game perspective, like a fantasy perspective, because I run the site, and like right after Supreme Flight Open, I watched your name shoot up the board as far as a person people were grabbing, and then
Mm-hmm.
this week as well, because we saw with Taylor Chosick, she had a great week at the Supreme Flight, but this week wasn't able to follow up with that. You've now done back to back. Do you feel like that shows not just yourself, but people outside of the pro tour, um, your skills and someone they should be looking out for?
Yeah, I would say some people probably forgot about me a little bit as far as like me being part of the conversation, but that is not like for good reason. I feel like I didn't give people a reason to talk about me for a long time, but I always knew that I had it within me to play like at a higher level. Like I feel like I didn't reach my peak and I'm still kind of climbing in that way. And excuse me, as far as like mentally and physically, I'm feeling like really strong in both of those areas. So,
Which is obviously important. The season, as we
mhm,
mentioned, is quite a grind. Um,
mhm.
do you plan on taking any weeks off at all? I know you said you're going to hit most of the U.S. stops. Do you have any breaks planned in there, for as far as physical relaxation, mental relaxation, things like
Mhm.
that? Do you have a touring partner? That can split the drive
Mhm.
with you and things like that. Like how are you approaching the season from something outside of golf, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. It's very calculated. So, first of all, this is a week off technically for me, but I don't really call it a week off because I'm going to find myself, practicing, getting in the gym, and like staying on top of kind of touring things as far as disc golf goes. So yeah, I'm just really focused in that area, and I do have a tour partner, my boyfriend. We've been touring for several years now, Don Smith and I,
I know,
and
I know,
we
I
have
know,
a
I know Don. I know Don. I didn't really. I'm sorry, Don. I didn't
yeah.
realize you guys were, touring together. I wasn't sure what his position was anymore.
No, it's cool. So yeah, he drives sometimes, but we share the driving, but I do a lot of the driving as well. But yeah, so we're out here just in the van, doing the van life, and got the puppy. She just turned 1, and she's amazing. We love her so much. So she brings a lot of joy as well to us, and so excuse me, as far as the break goes, though, I have a week off as far as not having a tournament this weekend. And then there's a week off before the first major, which is the week after Queen City. So
Do you
after that, though, it kind of hits back, 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 like three
mm.
tournaments in a row.
Are you going to fill the off weeks with A tiers as you travel? I mean, we see some players that do that like to have, some people like to
Mhm.
have the off week between events if there's there. And we see some people that just, especially a lot of these younger kids these days, that just crave the events and are looking for A tiers between Pro Tour events. Is that you, or do you prefer to maybe take a break?
Yeah, so I'm the kind of player who like just wants to play every single weekend, and taking a break is hard for me. But Don kind of helps coach me a little bit, and he actually helps me make decisions on the course and practice as well. But yeah, he coaches me in certain ways, and it's good to take breaks on tour because we are going to have several weeks in a row, um, focusing on the majors and stuff like that coming up. But as far as putting in a tier, I am excited that I just signed up for Masters Cup
Hmm.
last week in the Masters division. So I'm very excited for that in Santa Cruz. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be the week before OTB and the week after the Open at Austin. So it comes quick after this week, and 2 weeks from now, I don't have a week off for quite a while.
Any particular reason why it was the Masters field? Is that a Masters weekend particularly, or did you just feel more comfortable playing in the Masters field that week?
Good question. So there's a pretty decent open field that same weekend, but I have been craving finding a good Masters division. And there's also a good Masters division that weekend. And I was like, finally, I can sign up for this. So I got kind of excited for that. And I was like, Don, do you think I should play Masters? Is that I don't know. And it seemed like a good idea. So I signed up for Masters.
Do you like playing Master? I enjoy playing Masters. I'm of that age as well, as we all know, because the competition just feels a little different than the more stressful Open division. Do you feel like that's going to be a more casual weekend for you, or does the competition not matter in that you are kind of just locked in, or is that a
I'm
more
locked
fun
in, but
weekend?
I think you nailed it, like both. But like the camaraderie is kind of what I'm looking forward to playing with the Masters ladies. It is a different feel, like
Mhm.
competitively, and I don't know, it's just a different feel at that level. You're very competitive, but it's also like a level of fun playing with like your peers on that level.
Yeah, for me personally, I always feel like it's obviously less stressful because the competition isn't at the level of Open. You kick yourself a little less when you miss a putt or you miss a birdie hole that you need to get. But then again, I think at my level, every player is doing that. Not necessarily at these big A tiers. I'm still hanging around the B and C tiers for most of my sets. Let's dip into your sponsorships a little bit. You said this year, obviously your open bag, but do you have any other sponsors that are helping to support you and your travels this year?
Um, I'm really like not. I don't have like a bunch of sponsors, but I do have OTB East
Mhm.
as far as a really nice support system. They're really doing kind of the bulk of my sponsorship this year, but I'm also kind of taking on a lot of things myself, not having a major sponsor, and that's something I chose. At the beginning or last year, I chose that because just contracts these days are kind of mm, like you're not getting, the big contract money unless you're like maybe at the very top of the
Mhm.
sport. So making that choice to kind of stick with OTB East and have the open bag is a just a good pair in that way. But yeah, they're helping me, and Steve Bro is amazing, and yeah, he opened my eyes honestly to a lot of the new discs that I've been bagging this year. So I'm actually super thankful for um our partnership and what been able to do for each other.
You've always been known on tour as like to be honest, a great putter. Like, just that always seemed to be the spot where everybody knew you had a chance, whether it was 50 feet or 20 feet. Do you still feel like that? Do you still feel the confidence in your putt when you walk up to these? We've seen you, and I swear, I think it's at least once a year we see a huge throw in from you at an event. You seem to be you seem to just nail those for whatever reason. And I hope you didn't waste it at the first event and you get more of them. But how is your putting feeling right now? Do you feel like it's on point or something you still need to work on?
I feel like my putting is clicking a little bit more lately. My routine really sets me up and like gets me comfortable. Something I started to develop last year, like differently, because I've been tweaking my putt like forever. But yeah, my putt's just in a really comfortable spot right now. But I've kind of always felt pretty comfortable with my putt, I guess, over the years. So not a lot has changed in that way, but yeah, it's just getting more reps in and feeling really good with like my actual putters I'm using right now. So everything's just yeah, feeling really good in that way.
This weekend at the Big Easy, did you feel like the course, there was a lot of talk about the course from the MPO side. Do you feel like the course was fair for FPO? I mean, unfortunately, I don't think there were really many pre-event practice rounds for a lot of us to watch to get a feel of the FPO. There were a bunch of MPO ones, but there wasn't a lot on the FPO side. How do you feel like this course, what's the best way to attack the Big Easy? Is it more decision-making? Is it distance? Like, is it putting like it is on the MPO side? From your opinion, where's the best place to attack the Big Easy?
You can get aggressive in a lot of places out there, but for me, it's like hitting landing zones and playing safe. Like hole one's a really good example. I actually had a pretty sweet throw in on hole one from about 186 or so.
That's right.
And round two, I didn't get it on video, but yeah, I had a sweet throw in round two on hole one. And it's just kind of like how you play that hole. You can be really aggressive from the tee, or you can kind of lay up from the tee. And I was choosing to lay up and play for par, basically, and have maybe like that long chance of birdie. And that kind of worked out for me for the most part. But yeah, I just kind of pick my spots. Also, you know, make sure my putting is not getting out of control as far as like having comebackers. But great course overall, a lot of fun. I felt a lot of nerves out there.
Really?
On the feature card round one. Little conservative with my putt at the beginning. Like I didn't want to like let it go for some reason. Like just kind of played a little safe, I would say. But that's actually a good thing for that course. Disking down a little bit, hitting gaps, throwing flippy drivers and fairways was my part of my game plan out there.
How how close did you get to some of the wildlife? Did you spot anything out there that that made you step back a little bit, or were you at a pretty safe distance from all of the wildlife?
Just like in some practice rounds, I saw an alligator, but it was like from pretty far away. But that was like a shocker because I've never really seen that before. But besides that, it was just kind of like seeing pictures and things online.
Yeah, we saw a couple snakes, I think, alligators, pelicans, things like that out on the course. And under those cypress trees, you always saw the people kind of poke around a little under there before reaching to get their discs to play it safe. Yeah. So, do you feel like your experience now, because you've been on the tour for 10 years? That sounds about right. Maybe even more than that. But but you're a veteran, we'll say, out there. Do you feel like your experience is helping you maintain your recent play? Is that, or is it more so you feel like just your skill level, or both?
definitely think being a veteran is like huge. It's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a big help for me. I want to say I feel like I'm playing chess out there almost because I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts in my head as far as like what I'm gonna throw, how I'm gonna throw it, dissecting the shots, um, and feeling more like prepared than ever before, I guess you can say.
Is there anything you're doing before the round to prepare, or is it just your normal same routine you've done for years, like practice putt, throw a couple drives, or is there anything particular you're doing before the rounds to kind of center yourself?
Nothing that I can really like pinpoint, but
Happens in practice.
it's kind of like I don't know. I've been doing it so long. It's kind of like the same stuff that I've been doing, but I really dissect the course in practice, and I
Hmm.
make notes lately, and I'm like kind of playing off that and building a game plan every week, and feeling like I'm like really able to attack the course in my best way.
The type of notes that you're taking, are these more course notes or disc notes? Like, are you saying, oh yeah, hole two, the Pharaoh worked really well for me, or the zone SS, or something along those lines? Like, or is it more so stay away from this side of the OB or whatever?
It's like 90% disc notes
Hmm.
and saying like I'm gonna throw the wild honey here, I'm gonna throw the rhythm here, or I'm gonna throw the scorch on this hole. But also I found like not being so cemented to those notes is something I need to watch out for. Like when the wind direction changes, I need to make sure I'm able to adjust in real time, which is something I feel like I've struggled with slightly over the years. But yeah, I kind of just go through a list of like what would be the best disc, and I feel like I can plug that in, like, and make sure you know, giving myself the best look.
How is the FPO field right now compared to when you first started touring? Like, uh, I think when you first started touring, we saw, it was Cat and Paige, and maybe Val as well out there.
hmm hmm
How does the FPO field feel right now to you when you look at it?
Yeah, it's quite a bit different as far as like the players on top. I mean, when I was, you know, back in the day, it was Paige, Kat, and Sarah, like those top three. And I feel like I kind of got in the mix a little bit when I came out on tour back in like 2017, 2018, back in the day. But the players have just gotten more deeper. I mean, so much European talent we see, and the young guns are out here now. So it's just like new players at the top. We've got Holland, Own, Missy, kind of holding it down as like the consistency, and then the same old players as well. Like lots of old talent and lots of new talent kind of mixed in together. So just it's good to see that, the growth there.
I just lost my question. I was thinking of something in my head. Well, I'll ask this: does Don join you out on the course, or is he on puppy duty? Because I don't know if I don't usually see him on camera, or does he see camera shy?
Well,
Oh,
I got it for myself, so he said he's both. Yeah, he does puppy duty, but he also will join me for my practice rounds here and there. But yeah, I don't know. I do my own catting for the most part, so unless I like ask for help or something like that. Um, but yeah, he helps in practice rounds for sure.
Is the caddy duty, is that by choice? Do you just like to carry your own bag? I know we see, a lot of our top players now just sometimes we've seen Paige Pierce just recruit people off the sideline to help her caddy and she'll ask them their opinion on her throws. But do you just prefer to carry your own bag?
Pretty much, it's become that way. Yeah, I'm really comfortable like staying in my own kind of headspace there. But I don't mind having a cool caddy, a good friend, or someone I know jump on the bag. Sometimes I get asked to, someone wants to caddy for me and I don't know who they are, so I do have some reservations to that sometimes. Just and it might be mid tournament where I'm already kind of like, well, I got a groove, so I'm gonna keep carrying my own bag, kind of thing. So, but yeah, I'm really comfortable and used to carrying my own bag at this point.
Has there been, with this recent second place that you just took, were you able to spoil yourself at all with anything? Maybe a little bit nicer Airbnb, or maybe you put 93 leaded fuel in the car for a smoother ride. Maybe a new cap, maybe a new ball cap. Your caps are always nice and fresh.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Bass Pro Shop. We did a little bit of got some new shoes, just some slides, nothing crazy, and some new shorts. So that was fun. But yeah, did some shopping. Just you know, get get some food. Nothing crazy. I mean, you have to eat every day anyways, but just treat yourself a little bit. Nothing, definitely. But yeah, I like to cook and also go out to eat a little bit here and there. So.
Where is the place you like to go to eat? Either, well, first I'll ask, what's the everyday kind of food situation look like? Is that more grocery store stocking up? And then where is the special place that you look forward to?
Definitely grocery store stocking up. Back in Publix land, so that's nice. But a little bit of like I would say like 50-50. Sometimes the dishes are dirty, so grab some bean burritos at Taco Bell, or that's just like a quick one. But yeah, just kind of like mixing it up. Get some chicken wings somewhere.
And then where do you really enjoy spoiling yourself? Is there some place like a Outback? I mean, it's always so difficult. Or do you prefer to find someplace local that, if you're going to go and do something nice?
Food.
I really like to honestly when we spoil do some spoiling by cooking my own food sometimes.
Oh, even
But I
better.
like to have all different kinds of food. Yeah, like Thai food is fun once in a while. Just mixing it up on tour is really what it's all about. Good
Fantastic.
Cajun food last week.
Yeah,
That was special. And
did you get to go down
yeah,
to
definitely
Bourbon
being in
Street
New
and
Orleans.
and kind of take in the whole city at all? I should have led with that, for crying out loud.
No, you're good. I'm not really a Bourbon Street girl. I've never been. I should have gone for the experience.
Mhm.
I'll have to do that next time. But just got to drive around downtown New Orleans. It was amazing. The cemetery blew me away. We went to City Park and kind of took in some disc golf over there, and yeah, just the food was incredible, and the people. So great times.
I heard a lot of really good things about the Big Easy. Was it everything that people were saying as far as the hospitality, the amenities, just everything on there? Did you like the event overall? Do you think it's a good addition to the tour?
I think so. It was over the top with like the hospitality, the amenities. Just you got like more than usual at a pro tour, I'd say. So that was pretty cool. And I think the course itself is like on its way. So I can see it being like a really good staple moving forward. But it's not quite there yet, but it is like an amazing place, and the city just like rallies around it a little bit. So like the parish, they were just so welcoming. Yeah, everyone there is just like you can feel the excitement. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that same sentiment about the course has been what a lot of the pros have said, in that, it with a little bit of work, this could be an extremely top tier course, but it's just a little raw right now. And as we always say about the courses, especially when they're new, you can never, well, not never, but it's a lot harder to put trees back in the ground than it is to take them out. So it's better to kind of nicely prune, like maybe a bonsai tree, versus going in with a steamroller. So if
Definitely.
people want to follow you, support you, all these things, what's the best way to do that for someone? Because you don't have a major manufacturer, a major disc manufacturer. So, you know, does OTB East do tour series, Lisa Fajkus tour series discs? Can we get something like that? And if so, what are they, or how can they support you?
They're not out right now, so that might be something that comes out in the future for sure. But as far as support goes right now, just keep cheering me on as much as you can. You can follow me on my social medias and like look for things coming out in the future. But yeah, just you can reach out to me directly. I have discs for sale, tour series discs of mine from previous years. So like, yeah. But besides that,
Stuff in the works.
stuff is definitely in the works coming out with me and OTB East. So that'll be fun.
Well, the way you're playing right now, they should really get on that, because I think you're making you're making a lot of new fans. We've seen, you know, the people that are, you know, just that they don't know a lot of the history. They don't even know your play at Worlds from 2021. They don't know a lot of these things, and you're kind of coming up as this name that is repeatedly in and on the leaderboard, the top 5, the podium. So if let's get on this, OTB. We need a Lisa Fajkus putter with a nice flat brim hat stamp. That's what I see.
Okay.
Just you know, something like that. Or you could start selling your own line of hats. You know, hook up with like Miles Parkhill from Paragon, and you know he could probably hook you up with some hats.
I don't hate that idea. I just had a lot of sponsors in the past, and one of them was Tree Love. We did a line of hats. It's hard to sell hats sometimes.
It is.
It can be a hassle, but I'm a hat lover myself, as you know. So.
Yeah, everybody knows, because you are very distinctive. You're probably one of the only women on tour that wears their hat the way they do, with the flat brim like that. And there's people on the board right now that just love it. Like there's someone that's saying flat bill for life. The other question someone had on the board, real quick, before I let you go tonight, what are you putting with these days? Because people want to know always, you know, what your main driver is and what your main putter is. Those are the two things that everybody is always asking. So I think we kind of already talked about your drivers, but what about your putter? What are you throwing these days?
My main putter for like Circle 1 and even most of Circle 2 is going to be the KC Pro AVR. And I've been putting with that for over 10 years, minus my 1 year with Lone Star Disc. But I've basically been putting, like, honestly, closer to 15 years, I feel like, with that disc. So something I'm very comfortable with. And beyond Circle 2, I kind of dabble with some other putters. Right now, I'm liking the Envy a lot for a little bit more glide. But yeah, KC Pro AVRs are my main go-tos for putting.
Are those older KC Pro AVRs, or can you just go and kind of pick up a KC Pro AVR right now and it feels good? Or do you have like a specific run that you really like? I know Terry is a big KC Pro AVR. He always likes the real hard, slick plastic. I can't throw it personally. I need a little bit more tact to it. What kind of KC Pro AVR are you rolling with?
Yeah, mine are just kind of off-the-shelf new guys. I made sure to get a good collection of them, so I have like 10 or 11 white ones, and I just got those this past off-season, just ordered those this off-season. Breaking them in right now, and they're amazing. But beyond that, Steve Bro gave me like 5 KC Pro AVRs 2 years ago, and they're like perfectly seasoned for those longer putts. So they're like beat in, nice, but they're just kind of those newer run as well. So I'm not super picky on having to be a certain run. But I've had a lot of good runs over the years. After so long though, you need to like switch them out, get some freshies.
Yeah, they do. They do start to break in a little bit from what I have seen, and I don't know what it is, but whenever someone talks about the KC Pro AVR, it's always white. I think that's what Terry throws, are the white ones, and we got a couple other guys here in Wisconsin that just love the white KC Pro AVRs. So kind of crazy. Someone had said that a buddy of ours had said that I want to say the new Kelvin putters feel a little bit like KC Pro. I don't know. I haven't actually touched him, but he swore up and down by them after he changed from the KC Pro because he said he cracked his favorite one and he wanted to try something new. So maybe something to look at if you start finding it. But the way you're putting, I don't think you really need to look at any other plastic because you're a danger on the course from almost anywhere. It feels like right now.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I love the plastic. It feels great. It's comfortable to me. I haven't touched those other putters either, but and it's funny because people do say, "Oh, these are so slick, I can never putt with these." But
I can't.
It's just what I'm so used to. Is like, just it feels good in my hand, so I like it.
No, that's exactly what you need. We always say everybody has different, everything from hand size to skin and everything. Just everyone's feels a little different, and I can't putt with slick ones, and I know people that can't putt with my tacky ones, but it's it is kind of everything that it is. So if people want to support you, reach out to you. You've got discs for sale. Follow you on social media. Cheer you on week after week. Is there anything that we missed tonight, Lisa? Is there anything that people don't know about you that would surprise them?
We covered a lot of things, so nothing's coming to mind. Just that I've been on the Pro Tour. It's ever since it's been a Pro Tour, so that's cool. Been touring for 11 years now, and just feeling like I don't know, just getting better, and that's a good feeling. So I'm really excited for this year and grateful to be touring.
What's it gonna? I have to ask. What's it gonna take for you to beat Own at Masters Worlds? She seems to have a lock on it. You have to, someone's got to kind of take her down a peg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I'm playing my game, I feel like I can compete on any course. So I just feel like bringing that confidence week in and week out is gonna be like a good factor. And for me, my most important thing is like focusing on not bogeying. So that kind of takes my focus, and birdies will come.
Well, it's a good attitude to have, and I think it's the right approach to have because, although birdies are fun when you're out on the Pro Tour, I think just not bogeying can be fun as well. So the birdies will come. So Lisa, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's, as always, it's a pleasure to chat with you. I'll give Don a nice high five the next time we run into each other. But I hope you have continued success. We're going to look forward to watching you at the Queen City. Are you on one of the featured cards again? Do you know yet? Have they announced that?
I don't believe that information's been released yet, so we'll see.
You'll
but
be their second and third card.
I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I love that course, and I think it is like more suitable to my game as well. Mm-hmm. That course and the major coming up, so I'm really excited for what's around the corner.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be an exciting season, and I would look forward to getting you on one of those feature cards. I'm sure that they're going to stuff the main feature card with Europeans because it's their first week back. So we look forward to hopefully catching you on that chase card, that first round, and then the lead card, second round. Lisa, lead card. No need for nerves or anything like that. You've been here a while, right?
Right.
All right, Lisa, thank you for joining us tonight. Again, drive safe. Best of luck at the Queen City, and we'll kind of keep an eye on you.
All right, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Lisa Fajkus, everybody. A phenomenal player, a great person overall. I've had the chance to chat with her a little bit off the course here and there at some of these events, and just always a pleasure, always a smile. It's fun, and and then she's traveling with Don Smith, who I've known for quite a few years. There's some funny Don Smith stories out there that maybe aren't appropriate for the podcast, but if you ever run into him, maybe ask him or Nate Doss. Nate Doss has some great Don Smith stories too, I believe. So what a pair. But Lisa's been killing it this year so far. Again, a fourth and a second. Just she has surprised a lot of people that maybe just didn't think about her. Much like the Joel Freeman, it's a theme while Terry's gone. We're going to get the players that maybe were overlooked in the off season, and get them on. So, but Terry will be back next week, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to chit chat about. But we can kind of get into some results from this weekend now that we've chatted with Lisa. Let's start with FPO because why not? They're the cool ones anyway. Holland Hanley ran away with this. 9 under par. It looked like it was getting a little bit close for a while. After her first 4 holes of the final round, where she took a couple bogeys, or is a bogey and a double bogey? Was that what it was? I'm looking right now. Yeah, she went bogey on 3 and then double bogey on 4. Well, Valerie Montejano went birdie. So it started to get a little bit close, maybe a little bit sketchy, but Holland went into the round knowing that she had said the first 4 and the last 4, she doesn't think about them because anything can happen. Big swings. She was heavily focused on, 5 through 14, and it showed on her scorecard. She went 5 under par on those holes. So she was able to erase the 3 strokes into the positive and get herself 2 under par. I believe that was like the 3rd best round of that day. Because Valerie Montejano had a 3, and we saw Jessica Gerthy come out with a 4 under. So Holland Hanley just playing some really good golf right now. Really, really good golf. And hopefully I'd like to get Holland on the show again. We haven't had her on for a while. So get her on the show pretty quick to talk about her season, because she started out 2nd place last week and 1st place this week. She really is looking like the number 1 FPO player on tour right now. And we're going to see if she can maintain that with the Europeans coming into town, with Evelina and Henna. Sorry, I was drawing a blank of all things. As well as Silva Sarnen, of course. So maybe a tough track to kind of just come into at Queen City. It's not a wide open bomber, that's for sure. So, but Holland showing her skills, forehand, backhand, and just a good solid putter. It led her to an 8-stroke victory over Valerie Montejano, who was my pick to win it. But unfortunately, Valerie had a rough second round. So, but I feel pretty good because for the Supreme Flight, I picked Own and she won. And Valerie, I picked and she took 2nd. So I don't know if I can go back to picking a winner or if I'm going to get the 3rd place next for the Queen City if I make a pick. I'm only making picks because Terry's not around, so we're filling time, right, folks? Otherwise, Terry's usually the talker. Tied with Valerie was Lisa, who was our guest tonight. Lisa shot a 1 under par that round to finish 1 under total. And, just kind of again, she took a couple bogeys, but she had a couple birdies. It really was just kind of just maintaining on that particular round. Owen Scoggins shoots 1 over on that final round to go to even, and she had a big number on the 4th, which is not surprising. We saw quite a few people have big numbers on the 4th, but Owen just couldn't get any of the birdie holes that you got to get through the middle, and when you take a bogey or 2 in there, it's going to make for a rough day. Missy Gannon tied for 4th with Owen Scoggins at even. Jessica Gerthy shooting that great final round, getting herself up 8 places into 6th place, tied with Kat Murch. In 8th place, Amelia Nessa. That's how Charlie kept saying it all weekend, so I'm going to go with the fact that he probably looked at it and was right. She was a roller coaster. I mean, she has so much potential. She just really needs to kind of hone it in now. She's young. I mean, they're all young these days, but she was all over the board on that final round, going 4 over. She got a couple birdies, but she had a lot of bogeys. And if she can clean that up, you're looking at easily, top 5, maybe top 3, with top 3 almost for sure, with as close as these scores were this week. Paige Pierce in 9th place. She had a bad first round, a really good second round, and a bad kind of mediocre 3rd round. Is that what I saw? No, even first round, +1 second round. I must be thinking somebody else. And then a +3. So she kind of just slowly kind of petered out a little bit. And your top 10 is Alexis Montejano, Katrina Allen, Hannah Wynn, and Rebecca Cox. Rebecca Ooh, that was a rough start. That was a rough start on that final round. She went from the lead card to 10th place, sticking with the top 10, but starting out triple, double, single, single. Unless I'm at the bar, I don't want to start like that. And if I'm at the bar and I'm starting like that, someone's driving me home. Let's talk about MPO. This was a wild one. We heard complaints about the course. We heard some cheers about the course. The scores were very compressed. There wasn't a lot of separation, so every stroke really mattered. You know, a two-stroke swing would swing you 5 places during some parts of the round. Ultimately, Ricky came into the round with a 4-stroke lead to the final round and started out kind of weak. Was 2 over after 4 holes, but Gannon was 1 over after 4 holes. So, you know, Gannon made up a little bit, and then they both birdied in the middle, but Rick wasn't nearly as on point as he was his second round when he shot a 10 under par. I mean, a 10 under par, the ratings don't do that justice. That is an amazing round. That felt like an 1100 round. And it's merely like a 1070 because of just, you know, we can talk about ratings all day long, but this particular, because of the compression and the difficulty of the course, there just wasn't a lot of moving. So everybody was really, really squeezed together, which made each stroke only 4 points around there. Yeah, it's a little nutty. A little nutty the way these ratings work. Not great for Burr and trying to get to that 1063, but you know, a win is a win is a win. So ultimately, Ricky ends up giving it up at the end. He had just an absolute brain fart putt and missed like a 12-footer. And then on hole 16, he gets caught up in the woods and he's, you know, making a campfire. And 18, he decides to chuck it in the water when he went for the green. When I feel like he didn't have to, but you know, that's choices. Choices are what you make. So we can talk. We'll go through the rest of the results, and then we'll talk a little bit about the controversies that we saw during the round. Isaac Robinson in 3rd place. He just loves John Houck design courses. Luke Taylor poking his head up. 4th place. We're going to see a lot of Luke this year, I have a feeling. Joseph Anderson, Joey Buckets, a mediocre final round. You know, he dropped a place, but ultimately in 5th place, nothing to sneeze about. He's had himself a good start to the season. Chris Dickerson, you know, he shot up 5 places with his 3 under par. And I feel like that is more frequently you do that with that score when you're in the middle of the field. You don't see that nearly as much at the top of the field. So he went from 11th to 6th with the, you know, shooting the 3 under par. That's crazy. Ty Love, who we saw have a kind of a rough finish to his round, ends up at 2 over par. He was sitting at even. I'm sorry. He was sitting at like 2 under par going into those last few holes, and then went double-double to end up at 2 over. I mean, gosh, I can only imagine he'd love those 4 strokes back, and then he'd be sitting right there and tied with Luke up there in 4th place. Aaron Gossage has a great weekend, 8th place. Adam Hammes, Matt Oram tied for 9th. The other note this week was Silas Schultz, who started out really well, and then the last round just, unfortunately, 1 birdie, and then a double and a bunch of singles. He couldn't maintain, takes a +5, drops down 8 spots to 15th, but we got to see a lot of him on the course this week. So that was really nice. The hometown support, he had a lot of people cheering for him. It's great to see that. I love watching a player in their hometown because it's difficult to shoot well. It's like your home course. You know, there are some players that will go out to their home course and just, you know, they know it like the back of their hand. But it really feels like these particular players, when they get into kind of their home state, there's a lot more pressure, and it's harder to rise up, which I always look back at the 2011 Worlds, probably where I met Don Smith, actually. The 2011 Worlds with Nate Doss and winning that, and how just magical that was out in Santa Cruz. But I always feel like it's very difficult to perform in your home state with the crowd behind you. There's just that added pressure. Now let's real quick get into some of the controversies that we saw this weekend. And it was all in MPO. And it all had to do with rules. And I kind of just... I don't know. Ricky broke the rules. Did he cheat? No. I hate to use that word. I will not use that word. I've seen that word thrown around on social media. I've seen it thrown around on, disc golf discussion groups and boards. Cheating is a willful act, in my opinion, where you're trying to subvert the rules. What I saw when I watched it, and I was kind of like, I was really questioning what I was seeing, because I saw, Ricky went and he cleared out stuff in front of his lie. There's no question about that. Now, you can do that if it's one branch. So Ricky was on hole 16. His disc was there. We all know the story. He walked in front of his disc, and I truly believe there was probably some of that big stick that was where his footing wanted to be. But, as everyone kind of says, the loose debris, it was too far. There was too much. Everybody looked at how much. If he had just picked up one stick, I don't think anyone would have had a question. Been like, oh yeah, it was, into his lie, no big deal. It was the group of sticks he picked up that then he moved that really kind of threw a bunch of red flags. And I just think Ricky wasn't thinking. Period. He was in competitive mode. He was trying. He had just taken a bogey, and he was just thinking, and he was in a bad spot. He wasn't thinking, he was in automatic mode. And so Ricky just, didn't realize he broke the rules. Didn't even think about it. So Gannon, rightfully so, called him on it and was like, hey, I think he talked to Jeff, and then Jeff brings it up after the hole and asks Ricky what he was doing. Ricky was confused because I don't think Ricky even thought about it. He literally had to sit and think about like what throw was that and this and that. And it's so much easier for us as we're viewing to just kind of like harp on it, because that's what we get the benefit of forgetting about throws, seeing a bunch of seeing every throw and kind of getting a general idea, versus Ricky, who is just, he wants to forget about the throws. And what I was trying to say is we don't have to, especially bad throws. They want to wipe it out. They don't want to think about it. They want to move on and not dwell on it. And I think that's what Ricky did with that hole. He just kind of was, wash it out of his brain. So when he was approached by it, he sounded really dumbfounded. Like, what? No, I didn't do that. I don't remember that. When clearly he did. He made a social media post, which I thought was a good one. He was getting some flack about that, about how, it was his fault. It was his bad that he, upon looking back at it, and I'll come back to hole 18 when we talk about cameras and what we want to believe. But ultimately, Ricky just made a mistake. Thankfully, it didn't seem to matter at all to the end of the tournament, the way it finished up. Had it gone the other way, I think this would be a much bigger deal, but it shouldn't be. I don't know. Rick's a competitor, and he's going to keep it up. And he would, I truly believe he would never do anything to, purposefully subvert the rules to his advantage like that. Like, thinking he's going to get away with something. I mean, he knows there's cameras everywhere. They see everything. So, anyway, that was hole 16. And then we get to hole 18. And Gannon is off on the right-hand side. Well, I actually don't know where it is compared to the fairway. He was right of, I think, everybody else. In the middle of a bunch of roots. And I went back and looked today because I was sitting there going like, oh man, he's taking a while. Because the very first hole, he lost one of his, time extensions. And if you count the time that he walked up the fairway, it was 1 minute and 45 seconds. If you don't count the time he walked up the fairway, just when he got to basically his lie, it was still a minute. And that, that's 15 seconds over what you're allowed. Nobody called him on it. But I kept thinking, gosh, if Ricky were to call him on this, specifically Ricky, does that make Ricky look petty? Because he's calling Gannon on a time violation? Or is it the right thing to do? In my opinion, it's the right thing to do. Just like it's the right thing that Gannon called Ricky on the sticks. Rules are rules are rules. Obey them. Or run the risk of being stroked. But I could also see a scenario where if Rick called it, there would be so many people just getting down on Rick like, oh, you're just making a revenge call or things like that, which, it's tough. And I hear people all the time say, well, this is why we need marshals on the first card. Like, how many? 2? Because Isaac said he didn't see what Ricky had done on 16 because he was 50 feet away at his lie. And yes, it is his job to be watching his competitors, but, realistically, if he's standing by Ricky and Ricky throws, that gives Isaac less time to survey his lie. Because then he walks over and the timer starts, kind of when he gets over to his area, is my understanding. Once it's, everyone kind of walks to where they have to be. So is it Isaac's fault that he wasn't over there? Yeah, a little bit. Should he have been courtesy warned? Maybe, but we never do that. We never do that. And I don't think we should. As someone who, it's our job to look for people's lost discs as well. I've said it before. If you go throwing into the middle of a swamp or a giant thorny pricker bush, why should I go trompsing through there to find your disc and get all torn up? I've done it. We've all done it. You sometimes you're, I hate to say it, but a lot of times it depends on the player. If it's one of my best friends, sure, I might go trompsing through there and maybe get my legs all cut up or whatever. If it's not someone I care to play with or someone I really like as much, I might be hanging on the edge, kind of peeking over the bushes and be like, I don't see it, sticking my head kind of down. And not that I'm not trying, but not nearly to the extent that I would be. Where's the line as far as, what players need to do to help the other players? Call me petty, stroke me on it next time you play with me. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel. So Gannon then exceeds his time limit on 18. Then we get to see Ricky throw, kick off to the left, and make a phenomenal putt, which, again, cameras lie. If you look at that putt from Ricky from the back, when it looked like a 25-footer. But the minute they kind of flipped around to the other side, you could definitely tell that was like a 50-footer. So they end up going to a playoff. Ricky saves his bogey to go to a playoff with Gannon. Hole 1, Ricky gets in trouble. He gets himself out of position and ends up throwing towards the green into the water. Super high sky hyzer, and it kind of goes around the tree and ends up definitely short in the water. But then there's a discussion about where it lands because there's no spotter. And I'm not here to yell at the event or the TDs or anything about spotters. I understand it's difficult. It was late, and maybe you didn't think it through. That's fine. If we had 2 marshals on the card, would that matter? No, because they're probably with the players. That's where we want them. So what? We say we want 3 marshals on every card. We want one to walk up the fairway. We want, what if there's no spotter? What if there were no spotters this weekend? What if Ricky literally went someplace where the spotter wasn't? It's just I always think it's very difficult to hindsight 2020 talk about how we need marshals everywhere. Well, we definitely need 2 on the lead card. Well, what about the chase card when someone's making a run? Is it fair that then they get all the calls because there's no marshal there? Oh, so then, yeah, we probably need 2 on the second card. And we need to make sure that, these players are throwing in the right spot. So, we probably want someone. So now we need 3 on every hole, or on the top 2 cards. Maybe just 1 on the third card or something. I don't know. It's a lot of manpower. And my sympathy goes out to the event organizers, because there's so many scenarios where hindsight can be looked at and be like, ugh, how do you not have that? But either way, the best player on Sunday won. Period. Gannon Buhr dropping down like a 90-footer on 17 was just insane. Just insane. And then Ricky having to follow that up with, it wasn't short. It was a knee knocker, 25 feet, to be able to birdie that. And then Gannon able to just kind of lay up on the first playoff hole to win. Just, Gannon was the better player on Sunday. Ricky was the way better player on Saturday. And it's just, Gannon was more consistent throughout the week. Gannon wins. The course looked nice. A little rough in places. I hated the tee pads. The big monster tee pads. I think we talked about this last week. I don't see a point in them. I truly don't. I don't think we need all the lines. Just give me the front line. We talked about that last week. But then the course, it is extremely difficult, which I love. The problem I have with it is that there's no defining features. The holes all look the same. The par 3s, if you put someone in the middle of that par 3, it looks like the par 5. And so it's really difficult to follow as a spectator. It's difficult to see where the players are throwing, where the good landing spots are. And I'm going to put just, and I love these guys, but I'm going to put a tiny little bit of blame, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, on the production crew, because it is some of their job in order to show us the best spots. I think the drones were good on a lot of holes. And when they drone those holes, they don't know which way the players are going to take. So that's why it's not completely their fault. They did as best as they could, but it is their job to help with the viewers, especially on a new course. But overall, it's just the course. It's the course itself. It's flat. It's long. It's very repetitive. Those trees are really cool, but you know what? If I eat filet every day, is it really special anymore? After the 5th or 7th or 8th day of eating filet, man, cool. It's still another steak. Great. So, and I probably get the meat sweats, but that's a whole nother thing. So ultimately, I like the course. It does need a little bit of help. And there just has to be some sort of defining zones. Something that sticks out, because I can really, hole 1 is kind of memorable. The big Anheuser and then you throw to the pond. I think that's a good one. Hole 4 with the pond on the right-hand side. That's kind of a memorable hole. It doesn't feel like there's a signature hole here. One where everybody is like, wow, this is an awesome hole. This is the one I'm going to remember. It doesn't feel like there's one of them on this course. So it's going to require a little bit of work, not going to lie. And a buddy of mine who is an avid post-production watcher messaged me on Sunday morning and said, I'm out. I'm not going to watch this. He's like, I can't tell what's happening on the course. So that's one anecdotal piece, but that's just what we're dealt with there because of the style of the course. And we get that with heavily wooded courses as well. The first few years, it's hard to kind of determine, is that hole 10 or is that hole 12? Because whatever. And eventually we learn them. This one might be a little bit different just because of the way the fairways are quote unquote defined. And it felt like the players were never getting to the best landing spots. So the landing spots where John Houck wanted you to land that would give you a better line at the basket, players weren't getting there, or they were trying to take like an over-the-top shot and not going to the quote-unquote landing zone. So now you're left with like this kind of skinny gap that looks kind of random, and when the disc hyzer's out, you don't know if it's 10 feet into the trees or if it's cleared everything. It's just a difficult course to film and a difficult event to watch. The drama was there, though, thanks to the thanks to the playoff and the players that were there. A good rivalry is forming between those two, Gannon and Ricky. They have a lot of respect for each other, and they like each other. When Gannon goes out to the Memorial, a lot of times he stays with Ricky, like he has in the past. They are buddies. They respect each other. They respect their competition. Ricky and Gannon both want to win very badly, though. But I think they're the type that in 2 weeks, we're going to see them at the Queen City, and they're going to be joking the first couple rounds until it gets down to the end when they're going to get very intense and continue to do whatever they can do to win. I'm going to read a little bit off the board right now. Tim saying Ricky's a meme now. That is the great thing. I don't remember if I said this, but the memes that are coming out, oh, love it. Whenever there's like a crazy controversy, I always look forward to the memes, and there's been a few good ones with Ricky. There was like the bulldozer chopping through the woods. There was an old black and white photo with a man with a bunch of sticks on his back. There's some pretty good ones. Not gonna lie. And if you're Rick, I hope you just smile and be like, yeah, that's great. Those are funny. You have to take it in stride and laugh. Custom Course Map says, watch hole 4, any round in either division. Everyone took too long on every shot. Yeah, that's just the time. I think I said this on the show. The time extensions don't do anything. They're not going to change anybody's habit until we start calling people. I said this in the off season. It's just not going to change anything about the sport other than making the rounds a little bit longer. Is it easier to call somebody like, oh, hey, you went over, and we're going to take one of your extensions away? Sure, that's a little easier. A little bit harder on the second one. I truly believe we won't see anybody go to the third one unless you're egregious. And we're talking beyond what Gannon normally is. Because Gannon will go long on a few throws every round. He'll use his extension, then he won't, and he'll kind of just, and I don't blame him. He's pushing the boundaries of the rules. I wouldn't use my extension if I didn't have to. Let somebody else call me on that. Unless I know I'm going to blatantly be like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes or something dumb. If I know I'm going to be a minute and 20 seconds, I'm probably not using my extension either. Like, it's just, and maybe that's bad of me to say, but I don't blame Gannon for what he's doing and how he's doing it. He's one of the best players in our sport. Tim says Ricky could clean that course up in a weekend. Yeah, he could get some Boy Scouts out there, maybe some campfires, a couple good marshmallow sticks. There's it's really good. Custom Course Map says no shot tracking, so we'll never know the good landing zones were hit in a way that leads to the intended next shot. Yeah, you just can't do. I don't want to say can't. No, I will say that right now you cannot do shot tracking with disc golf. It's impossible. Not to say that that's going to change in the future with technology. It very well could. We've got, AI is doing crazy things. It's requiring less and less horsepower. What used to take, 2 or 3 fully loaded semi-trucks is now, for the PGA down to like 1 semi-truck to do that shot tracking on the fly with their little devices and their static cameras. maybe we'll get to a point where we could have a static camera on like hole 1 where we can then do tracking. But as long as our cameramen move, which they all have to, it's virtually impossible to do a shot tracking live. Jomas can do it after the fact because they can do a lot of steadying of the shot and they know what's going to happen. But just live, it isn't realistic at this point. I've looked into it. I wish it were. Buzz Swan says the green fairways filled with trees were beautiful. It was 100%. Those really kick-ass trees with the roots above the ground and the nice green lush fairways. It was pretty. It was pretty every hole. And it looked the same on most of the holes. It was hard to distinguish. That was my only gripe with the course. It's hard to distinguish what's good and what's bad on a throw. But I think we'll get there. Hopefully we'll break the course in a little bit. We'll get a chance to get out there and find some better landing zones. The cameramen will know where to stand better. This is, again, the first year of the event. And on a course like this that's really difficult, it's hard for a camera op to figure out a place to stand. You want to stand it where you think the landing zone is going to be. Cool. Unfortunately, at this course, the players were going all over the place. And at that point, then, it's a free-for-all. Because the landing zone you were in, or that you'd plan to jump to next, is no longer the landing zone. You might get one disc in that landing zone. And instead, now you've got players going up over the top. You've got players cutting through the right side, the skinny gap, which, you're thinking, like, why would anyone go that way? Well, now they're kind of stuck going that way. And with the John Houck fairways, as much as he thinks about a lot of things on that course, including spectators and watching, the way he designs fairways, which he usually on a lot of these long holes gives you 2 different options, that's miserable for a camera operator. Miserable. Like, it's just hard to determine. So, take that for what you will. And real quick, going back to hole 1's playoff, I was talking about the cameras and the camera work. We're never going to use video evidence. We shouldn't. This is my little soapbox. You've all heard me if you've listened to this podcast long enough. There is no way, based on those camera angles, including a drone, that you could tell where that disc crossed over. And to think that we will is asinine. Video replay should never be used in disc golf. Period. It just shouldn't. Those sticks that everyone said were in front of Ricky's lie, I think they were. I think everyone admits they were. But there was no way we could tell if one of them was behind his lie, just on the angle of the camera where the basket was, which we can't see, the angle Ricky's going to line up. We've all seen the discs where it looks like it's out of bounds until you get up and over it. Then it looks inbounds. And if you turn the camera a little bit, it looks out of bounds. Never. I don't ever want to hear anyone say that we should be using video replay as an official source. Nope. I just don't like it. No, sir, I don't like it. I'm okay with marshals. I'm okay with spotters being official. I'm okay with, players calling things. I do not ever want to hear someone go to a camera op, let me see that tape, or calling back to, a replay operator in the control room saying, hey, can you roll that back for us? N to the O, baby. N to the O. So, again, step off my soapbox now. That's, And custom, it's not even that video isn't available for all cards. I mean, there are things that are not fair for the lead card that they get advantage of. They have to, they have the advantage of 200 or 300 or 400 spectators. So they're less likely to lose a disc. We're going to see more people there. But they also have to deal with 200 or 300 or 400 people, so they're going to be moving slower. Some of those guys in the middle rounds, they're going to cruise right through the round and kind of keep their flow going. So better or worse, I'm not so much interested in the fairness of it, because if the top 2 cards get video replay, those are the ones we kind of care about. Maybe I could see a scenario, which I hope we never do, where they say, all right, video replay will be acceptable in the final round of the last 2 cards, because those are the ones we care about the most. Those are the ones that are probably going to win, so we want to get it right. I give a big thumbs down to that, but I could see a scenario. I don't really care that the other ones don't. They're not, they're fighting for $100, $150. The difference between 15th and 17th. Versus the top guys that are fighting for the difference between 10,000 and 7,500 or more in the future. So that's just my take. So Tim says YouTube videos are 100% perfect. For foot faults, in the comments. Yes, just ask anybody. Just ask anybody. There wasn't a heck of a lot of news this week, so I'm going to bring up the PDGA, and we're going to just quickly go over. Hold on, let me scroll down here. By the way, happy St. Paddy's Day, everybody. Happy St. Paddy's Day. Speaking of which, the 2026 St. Paddy's Day Classic out in Orangevale, California. This was the amateur A tier. Well, congratulations, Austin Hoffman. You won. Yeah, 2 strokes over Carlos Rios. So congratulations. And FA1, Selena Bell. There you go. I don't talk about amateurs very often because nobody really cares. Sorry. Congratulations, you won. But on this podcast, most people aren't screaming for the A tier rundown. But there were no pro A tiers this week, so I don't have to talk about anything. So, way to go. This weekend was the PDGA Asia Tour Championship. We can talk about that because I believe that's where Terry maybe was. That was from the 13th through the 15th. Winning that one was Jackie Chen, our good friend Jackie Chen. Second place was Joey Bruno over on the FPO side. Sumei Yang wins that by 7 strokes over Chai Fang Chen. Did my best. But that's the end of the Asia Tour. We're going to get Terry Miller back here. And I think that's it for disc golf talk. I got some really cool projects I'm working on. They're disc golf related, they're digital related, and they're Steve Dodge related. So think on that a little bit. But it's getting really close, this thing I'm working on. So I'm excited to be able to announce it when I can announce it. But yeah, that's what I've been dedicating the last few weeks to. My spare time was working on this project. Other than that, I've got 3 days to myself because my wife and daughter are going to Washington, D.C. for that 8th grade trip that everybody does, which I never did. I'm going to check out the Capitol. My son I heard him get home from robotics, but he'll be a basement troll as he's a 17-year-old kid. He wants nothing to do with his dad right now, so we're cool with that. And yeah, that's pretty well it. And I turn 48 in a few days. So I have to think about that. Yeah. We're in an even year. I was born in an even year. This is going to be 48. So yeah. That's how I think about it. Am I at the even year or the odd year? It always takes me 6 months to figure out how old I am. So we got that going on. So next year I'll be a year older, or next week I'll be a year older and a year wiser. Trying to catch up to Tim on the board. If I can do that, that'll be good. So it's 9:30 here on Tuesday night. As you know, we're here live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Terry will be back next week. We'll do some giveaways. Try to catch up for a few weeks of missing some giveaways. Hopefully he'll have some sweet, sweet stuff from the Asia Tour that he can give away. to some of our Smashies. Again, you can support us at patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. And Tim is right. The MP50 is coming. I'm coming for them, those MP50 players. I'm not going to do any better than I did in MP40. But it'll be fun to compete. Maybe I'll someday try to work on my game. It'd be a lot of fun to try. But we can't right now because here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we got about 8 inches of snow yesterday. And a little further north, where my family grew up, they had 24 inches of snow in a day. And a little further north than that, where my wife's in-laws are, 33 inches of snow in one day. That don't sound fun. And I saw some images of people who are getting like 4 and 5 and 6 foot drifts of snow a little further up north. So Mother Nature has frowned upon us for disc golf and smiled upon the skiers in Wisconsin and the snowmobilers and the snowshoers and the cross-country skiers, giving them another week, if they're lucky, of snow that they can kind of go play in. Then this weekend it's supposed to be like 55, so I'm guessing a majority of it will melt and go away. I still had to snow blow, though, because you can't sit there with 8 inches of snow in your driveway. Just not how it works. You gotta do what you gotta do. So for Lisa Fajkus, I want to thank her for joining us. Again, go out, follow Lisa, support her. She is a lot of fun to watch, and she does have those throw-ins. I had heard about the throw-in on this weekend, but I didn't even think about it because it wasn't on camera. And I was thinking back to the Supreme Flight Open throw-in, but she throws in more often than I think other people. Maybe it's her aggressive nature. Maybe it's just luck of the die. I don't know. But either way, go out and support Lisa. Get some discs. Get some Lisa Fajkus discs. Hopefully OTB East gets on that. Come on, OTB guys. We're all pals. Let's support your player when she's playing the best she is right now. So we never know what the future will hold. But getting that early $7,500 under her belt, it makes those drives a little easier. So for Lisa Fajkus, I'm John Van Derzen. This has been SmashBoxxTV podcast episode 599. And I'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox. Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.